Hi everyone, it's Emily, and today I have a massive Pickups monthly haul, and it's mostly composed of a ton of pre-orders that came in this month, as well as a lot of Black Friday deals that I decided to go ahead and buy because a lot of deals I found were just too good to pass up. So I have over 20 games here, so I guess sit back and grab a snack and let's get into it. So I'm going to start off with some pre-orders that finally came in last month. And first being the Xenoblade Chronicles 3 special edition. And this was probably the worst buying experience I've ever had when it comes to trying to secure a limited edition. I won't go on too big of a rant here, but I just really hope that Nintendo never does exclusive Nintendo Online Store pre-orders again, because that was just disastrous. And I'm still shocked that I was able to secure this, to be honest. It's beautiful. I love this game. I've talked about this game multiple times on my channel already. It's a very worthy addition to Xenoblade Chronicles, and I love just the holographic cover, and the back is also has a beautiful holographic image as well. So this does not come with the game because they shipped the game out early, but it does come with the steelbook and the photo book. I had another exciting limited edition pre-order that also arrived last month, and that is this PS5 version of Ys 8 Lacrimosa of Dana. So I already own this on the Nintendo Switch, but I wanted to pick up this PS5 copy, mostly because I really wanted a special edition of this game. And the package itself is really nice. You have this box that comes out, and you have Dana and Adol featured there. There's also acrylic standees, a steelbook, I think a storybook, a photo book, and a soundtrack. And I believe the only difference when it comes to the limited edition differences across the Vita, Switch, PS4, and now the PS5, so the PS5 version had a smaller cloth poster, which is slightly disappointing, but I'm still really happy with this regardless. All right, so those are the two big pre-orders that arrived last month. And I also ordered some other things that were either on backlog or it took a while to ship out that I wanted to share next. The first is a PlayAsia order that I got during their sale, I would say now 2 months ago. This order had 2 games. One of them was back ordered, so I had to wait for that to go back in stock before they shipped out this package. And so the game that was back ordered was the Asian English version of the Atelier Mysterious Trilogy pack. And so this contains 3 games. The first, Atelier Sophie, Atelier Firis, and Atelier Liddy and Sewell. So I'm really happy to finally have this in my collection and to get it at a nice little discount. You don't usually see this discounted more than 10% on their website, so it is a bit of a more expensive game because you have 3 full games in here on the cart. But I just really adore the Atelier series, and I'm really glad to have this physically now. And now that I own this, I feel like I should play Atelier Sophie, the first game, before I play Atelier Sophie 2 that came out earlier this year on the Switch and PS4. And Good Smile also just announced the Nendoroids for Atelier Sophie based off of the second game. And I'm really tempted to buy her because it's just an adorable Nendoroid. And I haven't really gone into Nendoroid collecting, but there are a few characters that I would really love to start collecting for. We'll kind of see. They're a little bit more affordable than your typical scale figures, so it might be a good alternative now that all the scale figures seem to be ridiculously expensive these days. So the other game that I bought from PlayAsia was this game. So this is, I'm probably not going to say it right, Regrandine. Sorry if I butchered that. But this is a tactical RPG that in the West was released by Limited Run Games, but they have both a Japanese and this Asian English edition that supports the English language. And this is a much cheaper alternative than trying to buy up the Limited Run version on the aftermarket. So what I've seen from the trailers and things, this is a slightly different tactical RPG in that you move in hexagon kind of configurations rather than the traditional grid-based system that you see like in Fire Emblem and games like that. So I'm really curious how this plays and the different strategy dynamics this game provides that you can't really find in the more traditional strategy RPG settings. So speaking of Limited Run games, I really try not to buy too much from their website because of how long it takes for games to arrive. But I couldn't really pass up these 2 when they went on pre-orders. These are not numbered Limited Run games, which honestly I kind of wish I waited because they're now available on the Amazon storefront that has free shipping, but it is what it is. So the first game that I bought was Other Side, and so this is another tactical type game. And I really dig the art style in this. It's very kind of dark and atmospheric, using a lot of grayscales with splashes of red. And so I believe this is still available on the limited run Amazon storefront if you missed out on this. I think the premise of this is that you have all these daughters that go and fight for you. So it's kind of an interesting battle system in that respect. So I don't think it has too much of an emphasis on the story, but the gameplay looked really fun from what I've seen. And then the other game that I picked up was Ender Lilies. So this is a Metroidvania type game. Again, I was just kind of captivated by the art style. That made me kind of investigate it a little bit more. And it has pretty good reviews. It's a dark fantasy, 2D action RPG is how it's described on the back here. It's been a while since I've looked up trailers because I think I ordered this back in May maybe. So it's been a while. But yeah, I'll have some game footage up here so you guys could see sort of how it looks and plays out. And then the last sort of pre-order that came in last month was actually ordered on Video Games Plus. And I ordered this game when there was an announcement for a restock, and this used to be a pretty sought after game on the aftermarket, and it looked interesting. It was a remake of a 3DS game, and so it's Code of Princess EX. And I've heard really good things about the 3DS version actually. So I figured the remastered Switch version would be worth trying. And this is actually the 15th anniversary edition, so it's a little bit different than the original version. So it does come with bonus things, and kind of how this was handled was odd. I believe what happened on Video Games Plus was that they restocked the original version, and then they came out with this 15th anniversary one after the other restock versions sold out. I'm pretty sure Video Games Plus said that they're not expecting any more restock of this game, but it's actually still available on Nicalis' website. So you can buy that there on their actual website, along with a lot of other games that you tend to see third-party sellers really mark up on the aftermarket, because they're games that people don't usually see out in the wild in the regular stores like Best Buy or Target or places like that. So I think people have the misconception that these are rare games when they're still readily available. But yeah, this is a kind of side-scroller beat-em-up game. I've honestly heard mixed things when it comes to this version after I bought this, but I think it's going to be worth trying. And I actually haven't played too much of this genre, so I'm curious to see how it'll go. So to qualify for free shipping, I put another game in that order. And the game I chose was the first Bayonetta game that they recently physically printed for the Nintendo Switch. Before, it was just a download code only. So I've never played a Bayonetta game before, and I figured starting with the first one, it makes sense. And now that there's all this controversy when it comes to the voice actor who played Bayonetta in the first two games, it's gonna be a little weird to play, but honestly, I don't think it will take away from my enjoyment. I have played Astral Chain, which is also by Platinum Games, so I have a feeling I'll really enjoy kind of the over-top action sequences of the Bayonetta games, and depending on how I like this first game, I'll probably get the two other games at some point. All right, so those were all the kind of pre-orders that I did. So the rest of these games are all the games that I bought during Black Friday or just random deals throughout the month that were a little too hard for me to pass up. So first, I guess I'll go into some of the Amazon pop-up deals that happened before the week of Black Friday. First being Final Fantasy 15. I know that this is probably one of the more controversial titles for the Final Fantasy games. So it's a game that you either love or you hate. I have a feeling I will enjoy it for what it is, since I haven't played a lot of the traditional Final Fantasy games, so it's going to be difficult for me to compare outside of just the ones I played. And I'm kind of a sucker for friendship sort of themes in media, including games, so this just sounds like a fun adventure that I will probably enjoy. So this is the Royal Edition, so it does come with all the DLC, though looking at the cover here, the internet is required, but I feel like that's become the case with a lot of these modern games these days. But yeah, let me know your guys' thoughts when it comes to Final Fantasy 15 and which camp you're in. I ended up picking this up for under $10, so I thought it was a good price to try it either way. The next Amazon deal that I ended up getting was the storybook edition of The Cruel King and the Great Hero. And I haven't opened it yet. It does come with a storybook that I think also functions as an art book, as well as a little plush of the main character. So I've heard people rave about the first game that came out. It was, I think, the Blind Princess and something something, I'll have the title here. But that game I've heard really great things about, and it's one that's definitely the more expensive titles if you're trying to pick it up on the Switch, and also one that I think is probably going to be in the restock sale that's coming up sometime next month, most likely. So I decided to pick this up, even though I hate how NAS has been doing these big kind of deluxe versions. Honestly, I don't have the space for these things, but this was, I think, $20. So I figured I should pick it up, especially if I wanted to pick up the other game that's most likely going to be on the restock sale, just so that I could have both and enjoy both. Since I just love how charming the artwork is. So I think it's just going to be one of those RPGs that should be really easy to play and unwind with when you don't want to do something too mentally exhausting. So I ended up picking up another NIS title on Amazon when it was reduced to around $20, and that is Eager Kill. And this came out actually earlier this year. It's a visual novel with some shmuck gameplay. So it's kind of an interesting hybrid, something you don't usually see. And I have heard mixed things about this, but there are a few people who I feel like we share very similar gaming tastes that really love this game. So I have high hopes that at least the visual novel aspect should be fun, even though I'm not usually one who gravitates towards shmuck games. I think it should be at least fun to try something new in that respect. I don't think it's even been 6 months since this released, so I have a feeling that this will be one of those NIS titles that will be hard to get a hold of in the future. Now this next game is one that I'm sure won't be difficult to get a hold of, though I have noticed a trend with some of the Warriors games that on the Nintendo Switch, some of them are getting a little bit more difficult to find. And so because of that, I decided to pick up Fire Emblem's Three Hopes when this was discounted to I think around $30. So I now have quite a few Warriors games in my backlog. I have the first Fire Emblem Warriors game, as well as Persona Strikers and Hyrule Warriors Age of Calamity. This is another one that I've added to my backlog, though I have a feeling I'll get to this one sooner because of the really great reviews I've seen, especially from people who enjoyed Fire Emblem Three Houses. There's a lot of story and tie-ins to that game. I've been meaning to finish up one of the last routes and the DLC for Three Houses before Fire Emblem Engage comes out next month. So I think I'm going to be busy in December trying to finish that up, and I might try to work in a little bit of Three Hopes just to kind of prep myself for Engage, but we'll see if that happens or not. All right, so I guess for the last Amazon deal, though technically I guess it's not the last, but the last Amazon purchase that I made before Black Friday was when they were having their buy two get one free deal. And I feel like those deals are really good, especially for first party Nintendo games or just Switch games that generally don't see price cuts, especially if they're fairly new. So I ended up picking 3 of the $40 tier just to take advantage of those discounts, along with some extra credit I had on Amazon. And so I picked up Potion Permit as one of the 3. And I hear that this is a really enjoyable simulation type game, and it does step away from the farming simulation formula that we've been seeing in recent years, and instead this leans more towards alchemy. So this just seems like a very charming sim RPG, and I like the pixel art, and I just hear that this is a really enjoyable experience. So when I get back in the mood and playing a simulation type game, I'm probably gonna try to pick this one up first, mostly because I've been a bit exhausted with all the farming simulations that have been coming out, and I want to try something a little new. Another Switch game that I picked up that was in that $40 tier was Nier Automata, and yes, I just bought this recently on the PS4, but I decided for $30, why not pick up the Switch version, which I hear is a fantastic port. And if I'm being honest, I get to games much quicker on the Switch and on the PS4 just because of convenience. So I see myself picking this up much sooner on the system. And there's not much else to really say about this game that hasn't been said, so I'm excited to get to this and see what all the hype is surrounding this game. And then finally, for the last game I did for the buy two get one free deal, I picked up the PS5 copy of Stray. So yes, this is yet another PS5 game that I picked up before buying a PS5 console. I have money set aside for a PS5 console right now. It's just hanging out there until after I move, and then I'll probably end up buying a PS5 and getting more into my PS4 and PS5 backlog. I'm moving long distance, so I didn't want to travel across the country with this massive machine and afraid of what might happen to it during the move. And so Black Friday actually had a ton of great PS5 games on sale, at least here in the US, which I kind of wish I took advantage of more, but it's really hard for me to justify buying so many PS5 games when, again, I don't own a PS5 console yet. But yeah, I decided to pick up Stray here on the PS5 because I like cats and it is up for Game of the Year. And also this edition comes with art cards, so it's hard to say no to those. All right, so we're getting near to my actual Black Friday deals. And honestly, most of the purchases I made during Black Friday haven't arrived yet. Yeah, I think they're probably gonna arrive like in the next day or two. So I'm not gonna share those until the end of December, most likely, for that monthly wrap up, since we have so many games already in this video. But before I share my Black Friday deals, I wanted to share some used games that I picked up for good prices, either on eBay or Mercari. The first one is the PS Vita game that I've been looking for a while, and I was trying to get it at a good price, like in the $20 range, and that is Tearaway. And while there is a PS4 version of this game, this is really one of the quintessential Vita games that really just displays how innovative the controls and what the Vita could do on its hardware. And so I feel like this is an essential game to pick up for any Vita collectors, especially if you're into platformers or just adventure games in general. So I'm excited to see how this plays and just really display what the Vita can do. So the next game is a limited run game that I missed out on when it initially came out. And it's one that I really wanted in my collection, but I didn't want to overpay for it. And when I was browsing eBay, I found it for a really good price. It was opened and it had free shipping, and I also sell a lot on eBay and Mercari and places like that, so I do know what the seller fees are. So kind of after all those fees and shipping, it came out to about what the original cost of this game was. So I was more than happy to pay that for a game that, again, I really wanted in my collection that I missed out on. And that game is Transistor, and this is the Best Buy variant cover. Inside it has some beautiful interior cover art, as well as a nice beefy manual. So Transistor was made by Supergiant Games, who I'm a really big fan of, and they also made Hades, which is one of my favorite games of all time. And so I just really wanted to add another one of their titles to my physical collection. When it comes to Supergiant Games, I believe they also have Bastion for the PS Vita that was also released by Limited Run Games. So I've been debating whether or not to buy that on that console or not. So I've kind of had that in the back of my mind of thinking of maybe getting someday, but I'm kind of also hoping that they'll release it on the Switch eventually in physical form. All right, next are two visual novel hybrids that I'm really excited about that I got on the PS4. And I've been eyeing these games for a while since my friend Mila from Mila's Game Room was raving about these games, and we tend to have very similar gaming tastes. So I was really excited to stumble upon these for a really good price, especially this first one here because it's getting a little bit more difficult to find, at least here in North America. So the first one here is Utiwari Primonos, which is quite the mouthful, A Mask of Deception. So I do have the launch edition, and this is an Atlas title. And this entire series really just is a hybrid of visual novel meets strategy RPG, which is right up my alley. And so I tend to enjoy my visual novels and also strategy RPGs on the Vita compared to the PS4, but I went ahead and got the PS4 versions of these, mostly because other entries in this series exclusively released in PS4. And I tend to prefer having an entire series of games, if possible, be on the same console if I'm collecting for it. But yeah, this launch edition comes with a 50-page art book, and it's not too excessive when it comes to size. So I'm really happy to have this and just kind of see what this entire franchise is about, because I've heard a lot of good things and there's a lot of spin-offs, and I feel like with Atlas, you really can't go wrong with most of their games. Which leads me to this game. So this is The Mask of Truth, and it does come with a pillowcase that's double-sided as the bonus. So I don't know why it's thicker than the first game here. But despite all that, this was really cheap on Amazon, and I believe it was also a Black Friday deal on Video Games Plus, but I ordered this before they had it as a deal on Video Games Plus, but I still got it for under $20, so it's, I think, a pretty good deal, especially for a launch edition with bonuses. And there's also a prequel that I believe is technically the first game. I need to go back and do some research on the series because it is a little bit of a mess how they localize these. But that one is still available on the NIS America website at least. And I believe there's also a spin-off called Zan that I don't know how it's connected to this world, but that one I think is getting a little bit harder to find. So I might try to scoop that up sooner rather than later. But yeah, I'm really excited to have both of these games and give them a try. All right, so we're reaching the end here finally. So I have some Black Friday deals that I got at GameStop online. But yeah, GameStop had some pretty good deals this Black Friday, and so I picked up a few things, and I had some other like gift cards and things that just helped make this haul very cheap for me, which was great. So the main game that I wanted to pick up from GameStop, because it was a great deal, was Digimon Survive. And so I got this for $17, and thankfully my copy came sealed, because GameStop is known to open some of their storefront copies and pretend that they're like new when they send them to you in the mail, but it's a whole nother thing that I won't get into. So this was a game that I was actually interested in picking up closer to release, and unfortunately it was released on the same day as Xenoblade Chronicles 3, which for me took priority when it comes to playing. But I was really intrigued by this new version of Digimon where it incorporates a visual novel with some tactical SRPG elements. And growing up, I was more of a Digimon fan than a Pokemon fan. Despite not having really played a lot of Digimon games, it's more of the anime series I was more into. So this will be different, and I know this had mixed reviews, but I think that was mostly from people who weren't informed that this was actually a visual novel and secondary a tactical JRPG. But despite that, I feel like I will enjoy this. I do hear that the story is a little bit slow to get into, and it does get quite dark, but once you get past a certain point, it's a really interesting ride. And some other games that I decided to pick up from GameStop during their Black Friday sale was a Switch copy of Persona 5 Royal. And this is another game that I own on the PS4 and haven't finished. So I figured I should pick it up on the Switch. Just have it all on the game carts here, since I do like collecting game carts over discs when it comes to game preservation, and also just when it comes to ease of playing, since I spend more time playing games on handheld mode than on the TV. I'm not too sure when I'll get to this. My hope is to get to it sometime next year. I do want to play Persona 4 Golden before getting to this, which I own on the PS Vita. And then the last Switch game that I picked up from GameStop was an open copy, but thankfully all the contents were still inside, and that is Doki Doki Literature Club Plus. And I've been meaning to pick this up for a while since it is a visual novel, and it is a psychological horror game, and I kind of understand why it's a psychological horror, but I haven't been too spoiled yet, so I want to pick this up sooner rather than later before I do get spoiled. But yeah, this comes with a lot of little goodies inside, and I was also surprised to see that I got a revised Switch cart on my copy. If you checked out my last video, I go in depth about revised Nintendo Switch carts and how some of the manufactured games actually get revised carts that include patches and things like that from the manufacturer, so you don't have to download them when you insert your card in. So that was a nice surprise to see that, and I know this was technically a free game at one point, or probably still is, but I just wanted to pick it up physically on the Nintendo Switch as part of my, I guess, visual novel type collection. And lastly, this game isn't too exciting, though it was only $10, which was a steal, and that is Immortals Fenyx Mix Rising for the PS5. So I do own this on the Switch, and I haven't played it yet. But in order to qualify for free shipping on GameStop, nowadays you have to have an order of over $60, and after all the coupons and things I used, I was just kind of under that threshold. So I decided to pick this up on the PS5 because I feel like I really enjoy this game, since I do enjoy Greek mythology, and this has a lot of puzzles and just action that I feel like I'll enjoy. So I think it'll be a good one to probably play on the PS5. Maybe instead of the Switch, I might just do a cross comparison at some point to see the difference once I get a PS5. But yes, this was my excessively large haul from last month. with a lot of games going in the backlog, unfortunately. So getting so many discounted games on modern systems was one of the reasons why I decided to put my 3DS collection on pause, which I mentioned in an earlier video from last month. So I think you guys kind of understand now why I've been having those feelings, especially if I'm getting just so many games nowadays that I don't know when I'll be able to play them. But the collector in me just finds it very difficult to pass up a lot of game deals when I come across them. And so they kind of just start to amass like this. I did mention how I have a few more Black Friday games that I picked up still coming. I have a small order from Video Games Plus, as well as a few things I picked up from Double Jump Games when they had their, I think, Black Friday, Cyber Monday sort of deal on their new website. So I might save those for the end of this month since I'm not expecting too many more games to be arriving. Though if there's some flash sale or something that I come across on my radar, I might have to give in to those and continue accumulating my collection in that way, but we'll see. But let me know how your guys' game buying has been going and if you also went a little bit overboard during Black Friday like I did. I guess the bright side is that I'm taking a lot of PTO off in December since I had some saved up and for the holidays and everything. So I'll have a lot more free time to actually play a lot of these games. So very excited about that. And I also ended up completing some games last month that I'm excited to also share with you guys in another video. So look forward to all that, and until my next one, bye guys.